Hi everyone, welcome to the Soccerbeat podcast. Make or break week for Bafana. So far, one game played, a disappointing draw against Zimbabwe, even with 20 plus shots and many chances to win. That draw has made life very difficult for Bafana if they want to go to the World Cup. Coach, we're going to deal with a few issues today. The one being the permutations around the group. What exactly Bafana need on Tuesday, both from themselves, but also from teams that need to actually help them out a bit. We're also going to look at the possible team selection in the forward areas. Do they need to be more attacking, even at defense, where they have some suspensions? So those are the main things we're gonna cover, guys. Before we start, please hit that subscribe and like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm to get us noticed and to pop up in more and more people's feeds, which is helpful. Okay, coach. So the disappointment of Zimbabwe. It's been a couple of days now. There's a big game coming up on Tuesday. We've got to play against Rwanda, and it's the only team that's beaten Bafana in this World Cup qualifying, actually on the pitch. Not including that 3-0 walkover result. But we also do need some help from teams teams in our group to actually make it through, which has been basically the story of Bafana in World Cup qualifying for so many years. Let me just quickly get all the listeners up to date on the permutations. So as it stands, Bafana sits second in the group, which is not enough to get straight to the World Cup. You have to top the group to go straight to the World Cup. We're 2 points behind Benin. If we were to beat Rwanda, we would go to 18 points. That's the only result, a win, that can give us a chance of going straight to the World Cup. And in fact, even a draw wouldn't be enough to get into the playoff round, which is a kind of a backup plan. So, firstly, Bafana have to win on Tuesday. Then we also need some help from Nigeria. If Nigeria draw with Benin, then it's going to be Benin on 18, Bafana on 18, and then the calculators will come out. So that's going to go to goal difference, goals scored even. Basically, if Bafana win by 2-0, which is, I think, basically the first result they need to actually get to the World Cup. 1-0 probably not going to be enough because Benin, with the goal difference, we need to make up 2 goals, and we need to score more goals than Benin as well on Tuesday. So there's quite a few factors there. So a draw won't get us through. Only a win will get us through, and we need Nigeria to take something off Benin. A Nigeria win against Benin and a Bafana win would send us straight to the World Cup. So that's obviously the result we're hoping for. I'm going to come back later to the playoff round because it's quite complicated, and I think let's discuss that a bit later. So, coach, a massive game against Rwanda on Tuesday. Uh, Firstly, what approach would you take to that game, knowing that we have to win? We have to win by 2 goals, or at least score 2 goals in that victory. What sort of approach would you take in that game? Would you be straight into gung ho attacking football? How would you approach it?
Well, we need to be careful. We have a goal deficit. We have to beat. Firstly, we have to ensure that we beat Rwanda by two clear goals, as you stated. But at the same time, we need to ensure that we don't concede goals, even if it's a win and we win by 2 goals to 1. It still would disqualify us from, finishing in top spot. So we find ourselves in a very precarious position, and we're leaving our fate in the hands of a struggling Nigeria. Nigeria haven't been the Nigeria of old. So, even though we feel the home advantage will benefit Nigeria, it's still not a cut and dry case that they will win the game. We know Benin is, a team that's very difficult. We've seen them over this campaign. They're not an easy team to play against. They make things very difficult for you. And so too, we find the same with Rwanda. Rwanda is the only team that has beaten us in this campaign. Even though in that game we dominated the game, but they still managed to use their physical dominance to overcome us. Now that's my biggest fear ground, is that as much as we're depending on Nigeria to do us a favor, we still got to beat Rwanda by two clear goals. And at this level of football, you know how difficult it is for a national team to beat another national team by two or more goals, especially when you see how close this competition is. And having lost some key players, I'm not just talking about Mbokazi, I'm talking about during this campaign, we've lost Zwane, we've lost Rele, we've lost, I think, Reyners as well at very crucial moments in this campaign. And that has set us back tremendously. So it's a huge mountain to climb, major challenges. It's not impossible. We've seen this can be achieved, and I'm hoping and praying that we do, overcome this challenge and get to the World Cup because it means so much for all of us, right, that Bafana gets to the World Cup. I mean, after so many years, I mean, 2010 was the last time we qualified, and only on the basis that we were hosts. So it's really something that is needed. And I don't want to go into the politics of why we are where we are, but we all know the reason that we find ourselves in this situation due to some very poor, negligent administrative blunders.
Yeah. It's so disappointing that always, it comes back to that so often with Safa. So as you say, we need to beat Rwanda, and they're going to be hell set on trying to stop us. As we saw, Zimbabwe were so keen to actually beat us. I know as a country from the same region, they were keen to, put one over the rivals. Now Rwanda do have some really good players. They've got obviously Ntwari in goal from Chiefs, who have a big point to prove after all that happened with him in his last outing. They've got a strong midfield. I had a look. Uh, Bizimana and Mugisha, two really good players in there that can break up a play a lot, and they did that in the home game. We when we actually went away to play them, we played with a false nine, and Mayambela played up front, and now we've got Lau Foster, we've got Makopa in the squad instead of Brenes. There'd been some talk that maybe Bafana should have called up veteran Bradley Grobler because he's firing, for Sekakuna. Where do you stand on that? Should maybe Hugo Broos have caught up one of these type of players, Grobler or Mabasa, someone who's like a natural poacher, just in case you get to the last 15 minutes, you need a goal, and you can throw someone on like that. Where do you stand on that sort of argument?
Well, I definitely call up a Grobler, knowing Grobler's ability and knowing his mentality. He's a winner. With 10 or 15 minutes to go, Grobler could be that player that is so strong aerially. I mean, then you have to go aerial. I mean, against a team like Rwanda, with a couple of minutes on the clock, you probably go pushing up Udal, pushing up Morena, wherever you have wide, ensuring that they get a lot of crosses in the box. And this is where I think Grobler can really be beneficial to Bafana. So I wouldn't exclude Grobler at this stage, irrespective of the fact that we know he's not the youngest of players, but he's a goal scorer. He's got that mentality. He's got that ability to score important goals. So definitely, I would bring a player like him on board, and maybe even Mabasa, bring him on board because you got nothing to lose. I mean, your squad is what 20 odd players, so why not? Sacrifice maybe a couple of defensive players. Bring in these two guys. You know it's a must win. You know you need to go at them. Obviously, you're not going to go gung ho. And I still think having the two pivots, Mukwena and Sitoli, maybe not Sitoli, maybe bring in Mbala again, or maybe bring in another option in midfield if you're not happy with that particular pairing. But I wouldn't go gung ho. I'd play with two pivots and ensure that I free up the likes of Koja, free up the wide players, the fullbacks, because again, for us in this particular encounter, play a bit more narrow, have Mudao, have Modiva, making more overlaps, getting in early diagonal balls, because this is how you're going to have to play tournament football now. Now, it's not about how nice you play, Grant. It's about how effective you are. And as the game progresses, that important opening goal is what is so important. You need to make sure you don't leave it too late because then the frustration starts building. We saw that against Zimbabwe. When Knowledge Musona got sent off, they set back, they were difficult. And I disagree with what people say that we didn't play well. I think we played well. Having created those chances, I mean, a ball clear off the line, another one that Foster put against the upright. Those put on another day, it could have gone in, and we'd be talking something totally different. So I think Bruce has done a good job, and I think you shouldn't question his selection that much. I think if out of need, Muniswani comes in, that could fill the gap that Mbokazi has left.
Okay, so let's go to that topic. Let's get on to two topics. The first one is Sipho Mbule. He's basically been reborn at Pirates. He's played the last couple of games for Bafana as a number 10. He was really good against Zimbabwe. Maybe on another day he might have scored a goal because he got into great positions. I'd say probably our man of the match in that game. Would you keep him as a number 10? Would you consider moving him deeper next to Mukwena to have more attacking thrust? I know there's maybe not the most obvious replacement as a 10 if he drops deeper. Shabalala's inexperienced, but there are some options you could use. You could even use two strikers. What did you make of his display? And then just coming back to, Thabo Malesane, you mentioned him. He's come into the squad to replace Mbokazi, who's suspended. But now, of course, there's Ndamane, there's Mali Koza, and even Kabini, who's played centre back. So do you think that Hugo Broos is going to go for the experience of Malesane there over the youngsters, just being such a do or die game? Even though he's come from outside the squad, you'd plug him right into that 11 by the sounds of it.
No, definitely. I think he's done absolutely well for Stellenbosch. He's proven beyond a doubt that he's a defender of great quality. You know, especially when you look at the fact that Stellies have always had players in that position moving on to other clubs in the past. And he's been a stalwart in that defense for Stellies. And I think he'd do very well for Bafana, you know, right next to CBC. So my worry is not so much the defensive pairing. My worry is the fact that we need to ensure that we put you know, Rwanda to the sword. And coming back to your first question, I think I wouldn't change Mbule for anything. He created so many chances. He was a little bit unfortunate. He's a player that will take shots from distance. He's a player that gets into your face. You know, he combats for every loose ball. He leads the game so well. So he's been a breath of fresh air for Bafana. You know, at one stage, I was one of the people that said, you know, his discipline was going to be a fact, but he's now changed the mindset. You know, his performance at Orlando Pirates has been wonderful. I mean, everybody says, you know, what a quality player he is. You know, put aside the disciplinary action, but I think every person needs a second chance, and he's taking it with both hands. So yeah, Mbule for me, don't change him. Play him as a number 10. You don't want to crowd the offensive third with two strikers. You leave the likes of Frost up front. You need runs from deep. You need players like Apollos to make runs in. Apollos came close as well. Very skillful player. You need Mbule to make runs from deep. You need Kota to get on the act as well. So I think that structure and that tactic has has assisted us in being dangerous against any opponent. It's just unfortunate, you know. You get those games like the Zimbabwe game where you could do everything. You could have played until the next evening, and you still wouldn't have scored it. You just needed a better luck. And I think people always say you need to make your luck, but in this case, Bafana were unlucky to say the least.
Yeah. Okay, Jen. So there, everyone. So there you have it. Coach has said he's going for Malo Sane at the back next to BC. Mbule he's keeping as a 10. He's not shifting him for any money basically because he was so good against Zimbabwe. Just before we finish off, let's look at that playoff round table. So basically, what's going to happen is all the runners up are going to go into a log table, and the four best teams that are in the runners up will go into another playoff round where they'll play each other in semifinals and then a final, and there'll be kind of one overall best runner up who will then have to go into a whole lot of games against teams from other confederations from Asia, North America, South America, and Oceania. So it's a long route to go through this playoffs. It's really something we want to avoid. But if Bafana do get a win and we shoot up to 14 points and Benin still win and we can't top the group, there is still that route as a kind of a last resort, just to let all the listeners know that there is quite a bit of hope. And just one thing to finish off, everyone, there is some hope. You know, Nigeria hosted Benin just a year ago in an AFCON qualifier, smashed them 3-0. So let's hope we're going to get a repeat of that. And the Benin coach, who's actually Gernot Raw, who was the Nigeria coach for all the years, hopefully he's unfortunately heartbroken in Nigeria. Coach, thanks for joining me. So many talking points, but there is still hope for Bafana. If they win, if they can score at least 2 goals, win by 2 clear goals, and then if we get some help from the Super Eagles, which, yeah, let's hope so. Even with all the rivalry over the years, hopefully they can help us out. They can still qualify, and they can make it into the runners-up, into the top 4 runners-up, so they'll be motivated. Even if Bafana are winning, their motivation won't necessarily drop off. Thanks for joining me, Coach.